So what I thought I'd do this morning is start off by going through a formal bit of slides and information about orthopedics and the relationship of surgery procedures to arthritis, and then open up the discussion to your questions. I'm happy to take questions while I'm going through the slides also if something's burning, but we'll leave time at the end to talk, go through questions for you too. So and the other caveat about this is there are a million different orthopedic procedures for arthritis. I'm only going to hit kind of the top few. Every single joint that is a synovial joint can be affected by arthritis. And so, if you have specific questions about something I haven't covered, feel free to raise that question. Yes, sir.
What joints do not include synovial fluid?
The classic one to talk about is the SI joint.
That's arthritis.
Yes, it does get arthritis. I wasn't saying that it didn't get arthritis, but osteoarthritis is typically a disease of the synovial joints. That's what we usually talk about. The SI joint is affected by an inflammatory arthritis. Yeah, so it's a little bit different process. Okay. So, the vision for the future, I'm sure everybody agrees, is regenerative medicine. The NIH is pouring lots of money right now into research in regenerative medicine. And the goal of that is to grow new tissue. There are a number of different research projects that are underway. The most common system that's currently being looked at is to have some kind of a biological scaffold and then add stem cells of one sort or another into the scaffold and then see if you can get the cells with the appropriate either pressure or chemicals to develop the right tissue. Cells are very, very smart within your body, and they get very complex signals that tell them when to turn things on and off to make a particular kind of tissue. But outside of the body, we only understand those signals dimly, and so trying to replicate the chemistry, the pressure, and all the other things that make a cell do what it should do to become a chondrocyte or a cartilage cell or a bone cell is something that we really don't know yet. So there's work on it, but the bottom line is I think it's going to be a while before we actually have that kind of regrowth. There are efforts to stimulate new tissue growth, and two of them are being done currently. One where you use cultured chondrocytes, which I've got listed here, and that's the procedure that goes under the trade name of Carticel. That procedure involves taking cartilage cells from areas of a joint where the cartilage is not weight-bearing, sending them off to a company, having those cells grown in cell culture, then they're sent back to the surgeon, and at a separate operation, usually 6 to 8 weeks later, those cells are reimplanted into a cartilage defect. Now, unfortunately, that's been studied for around about 10 years now, and that procedure does not recreate real cartilage. And so it was an exciting idea. It is still being done, but is really not looking like it's a direction that's going to solve the problem over the longer course. The other procedure that's done now is what I call transplanting whole cartilage tissue, and that's typically done taking small plugs of cartilage and then kind of putting them into a mosaic within a large defect in the cartilage. That procedure seems to work a little bit better because it also includes some bone, which gives the cartilage some stability, and the little holes in between the plugs do seem to grow in with fiber cartilage, and so you get a little bit more durable kind of a regrowth. But the problem is that those procedures work best in a normal knee. So if you have a 20-year-old who has a traumatic injury and they knock out a chunk of cartilage like this from the weight-bearing surface of their bone, then you can go in and put in a chunk of cartilage, and the biology all around that cartilage is normal most of the time. and the body doesn't do anything funny, and the cartilage takes over and with the bone that's underneath it, and it regrows and it becomes a good surface. And as a surgeon, I've done that in the past, and I've scoped people's knees 6 months later, gone back and seen, wow, it looks normal. So that's great. The problem is that what we're really dealing with for most of you and I as we age is a disease, not a traumatic injury. So osteoarthritis is the big grab bag word that we have to describe cartilage as a tissue deteriorating. It has a very characteristic process that it goes to, and when it does that, first it fibrillates, it starts looking like crab meat, then it gets worn away, and then you have bone rubbing on bone. And at the same time that that's going on, the whole joint is affected. And so you've gone from something that looks like this, a nice round hip joint or hip femoral head that sits in the socket and glides perfectly, to a femoral head that's up here, where you have a rim of funny stuff. Here's my glasses, this is a pointer. This is called an osteophyte. And then you have areas where the cartilage is gone, and there's just bone sitting there. And you have some residual areas of thin cartilage. And the whole head has become misshapen. So this process we call osteoarthritis. It has some genetic patterns, if you will. If you have a strong family history of osteoarthritis, you have a higher risk of developing osteoarthritis. But it's not 100% penetrance or a clear-cut inheritance pattern. It's what we call a complex inheritance pattern. And so it's postulated to be the results of many different genes interacting. And at this point, we don't know more than one or two that offer only a very small piece of the heredity. So there's an awful lot of unknowns in osteoarthritis. So the bottom line for all of that, we still don't understand the disease process of osteoarthritis to come up with a quick biological fix for the regenerative process that we'd all like to see. So unfortunately, that leaves us back with what I started with was as a surgeon, was trying to figure out how to do carpentry kinds of stuff